Welcome to Shh, Tell Me Everything. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm really excited to be joined in my studio today by James Wright, my good friend, who has come to tell us everything. I think James has some really great secrets that he wants to share with us today. To give you a little bit of background. So James is amazing. He's the founder and the owner of Wright's Plumbing and Rotary. He'll tell us a little bit about that here in northern Utah. But he's just the kind of guy that when you're around him, you feel better. When you look at how he runs his business, you think, I want to run my business just like that. When you meet the people around him, his family, his kids, like you just look at this, and how the heck that he is just surrounded by this like bubble of goodness that he has created of positivity and just amazing things. I know like it's part of how he's raised, I guess you could say, James. I love one of the stories he was telling me that he grew up chopping wood, and that's what they did, chopping wood. Always been a hard worker, and but well, I'll let you tell more about that, James. But then we really want is I want James to share with us kind of the secret that's making all the difference, whether that's in business, whether that's in your family life. I just really want to know. So, James, if you'll just tell us a little about yourself. How'd you get into plumbing? What's going on in your life?
Well, um, geez, how do I got into plumbing? Kinda just stumbled into it, I never okay, so I served a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I went out and, one of my companions was a plumber, and I said, "Not in this life or the next will I ever be a plumber." I mean, who wants to chase turds their whole life, And by the way, that's one of our sayings is, "We're the best turd herders in Utah," so yeah. But I never thought that, and I got home, and my dad's good friend owned a plumbing company, and, of course, I'm always been the one that never can sit still, and so I got home about 3 days after I was chomping at the bit to get doing something, and he says, "Well, why don't you just come work for me?" And I worked for him for 8 years, so before I started my own business. So that's kinda how I got in the plumbing business. It was great.
And this just reminded me as well, like, secrets to tell. I love it. I think it was your wife that gave me some more info. I was like, give me the dirt on James. You're gonna tell me stuff. James doesn't wanna tell me anything. He doesn't wanna brag about himself, but she wanted to brag. And one of my favorite things that she bragged about you was that you had the lead in Oklahoma, right?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that. So, you must be do you still sing? Is this a thing?
I don't sing nearly as much anymore, but, yeah, we had a lead in Oklahoma. I was Frank in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and
Stop it.
I am yeah, I used to sing all over the place. We've sang in pretty much every state surrounding Utah and even up into Canada.
Okay, like with what? What do you mean you've sung in every state? Like, what does that mean? Like, you drive to the state and you sing, or like you were in something? Like, what does that mean?
I used to sing in church a lot, and
Okay.
so we would sing at fireside, stake centers, youth conferences all over, and people used to ask us, and we would go speak, and we would sing, and we would put on the whole program, and we did that for quite a few years.
Okay, like in your 20s, in your teens? Like, when was this?
So, it was in high school, and then after I got off my mission, we would go and my wife and I would speak at firesides and youth conferences, mostly youth conferences and firesides, and we would talk about our dating experience, and then we would sing music for 'em. So, yeah, we did
Oh,
that.
okay, so now I gotta know, what would you share about your dating experience?
Well,
I
that
mean,
is that
if you're doing firesides about it, like,
that is a long story.
okay, so maybe we'll have to have another tell me everything.
That's probably a
Kidding.
whole another podcast all in itself. Ugh.
But it all leads into and I don't know exactly what secret you have planned to share with us, but I'm hoping at some point you can also touch in on what's happened with your family and your kids. Okay, so I see James every week. We go to this business meeting together. And over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I think that I've been in this group with him. At times, different members, different of his kids have come either to be a substitute for him or come along with him. And here come all these kids that are like from teenagers now to graduating high school to, early 20s. And they have come and showed up with such enthusiasm to talk about plumbing and to talk about their dad. Like, it's been remarkable. And I think all of us sit there in the group and think, man, what would we give to have our kids be as excited about this and be excited about working with us and showing up with us. And I don't know that plumbing is what they all wanna do, one day in life, but, like, having them show up, it's been incredible. So I hope you'll touch a little bit about that, about kids. But James, let's turn the time over to you for a minute and tell us your secret.
Okay, well, talking about, I'll bring up one experience. Okay, so I am in this business meeting group, and the one I was in with before you, I'll never forget. I used to bring my kids, and they were older teenagers. They weren't like younger teenagers, but they were older teenagers, and I would bring them with me, and then I would teach them how to present themselves in front of people. Okay, which I thought was extremely important. I will never forget an experience of one of the gentlemen stood up after my one of my children had presented themselves and said how disappointed he was that we weren't professionals in this group, that he that I was bringing my children in and not a professional, okay? Well, I I will just tell you this, I really pondered that because I wanted to be a professional. I want to represent myself as a professional plumber and a good business owner. And then I realized something about some of the secret that I wanted to share today, and we'll kinda go this that being a professional is more about it's more about just presenting yourself and as an adult, as like, "Oh, I'm this old and I have accomplished all these things," okay? And that is part of it, but there's more to that, and I guess to get into kinda what my secret is, and it kinda in back and I'm gonna go back to when I served a 2-year mission, okay? Because I learned a lot about that, but I had a really good leader that told me every time we had these meetings, and he says, "If you want to be the best in what you do, stand on the shoulders of giants." Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I always thought, "Man, if I'm gonna be the best, I need to stand on the shoulders of giants. I need to stand on the shoulders of giants." And I will never forget the instant, and this is a little to do with my secret, when I realized that when a giant comes over, let's say this ridge or out in the view, you don't the person on top is really little, okay? And yeah, he might be at the top, but who do you really see? Who do you really notice? It's the giant. I found that so interesting to think that, "Oh, yeah, okay," and I don't think it's bad to want to stand on the shoulders of a giant, but what if we all could learn to be giants? What if we all could learn to lift, to be the person in your business, in your family, in your friendships, in just a crowded room that wants to be the person that is willing to take the time to lift every single person. Okay. Now, I'm not saying it's not bad to be at the top, but if you really think about it, in order to be the giant, you've had to been there too. But you've taken a step back and realized there's something bigger. There's something more important. There's something even greater than necessarily being at the very top that you can actually have a responsibility and a duty to lift others and to put them up and to build them and to make them shine. I think in life, if you look at all these amazing and wonderful people throughout history, it's the fact that they have stepped down from the role of maybe not necessarily at the top, because remember, everybody at the top always comes down. You can go to the top and you look throughout history, everybody's been number 1. Eventually, someone's gonna be number 1, okay? But if you can take that and say, "I want to be the giant that lifts," that is so important in it and what I kind of see. And so we go back to my family, okay? and I'm the dad, and, of course, you think you're supposed to know everything when you're growing up, which of course, you don't know anything, but, and I've thought about this too, so I've had parents that raised me, and they did a great job. They weren't perfect, okay, but they did a really good job. I grew up in Hooper. I grew up in a town where Yeah, I grew up in Hooper. I grew up in a town where back then, there was more cows and horses there were people, okay? And you pretty much knew everybody. I mean, you'd go riding your bike and down the road, and everybody would wave and say hi, and it was just wonderful. It's not necessarily that way anymore. It's grown quite a bit, but,
think there's like a Walmart out there now or something.
it's like
But
I went out there, and
top lights, you got some apartments going up. It was
I
crazy.
was shocked. I went out there, and I'm like, "Oh my heck." I used to run and get in some mischief and get into a lot of trouble in all these fields, and now they're all homes. But, I think about how I were raised, and here's another thing that I've thought about, 'kay, I had really good parents. I was lucky. But it doesn't mean, let's say, in your life, if you didn't have good parents, let's say, you didn't have that opportunity, then be the parent you want to be. Nothing's stopping you. What's stopping you? What's stopping you from reaching into yourself, knowing what kind of parent you want to be, and being that parent? Now, I'm not saying a perfect parent because I don't believe there's perfect parents out there, at least in this life. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe it. But I believe there's a heck of a lot of parents that want to do really good for their children. And so that's kind of another thing, that I've really kind of thought about. So I don't want to be all serious, but I have a story about. Okay, I believe that going back to that story I told you about, this gentleman standing up and saying, your kids not being professional, and I really thought about it, and I'm going to go back to saying, well, when do you start then? When they're 20?
And then go start well, and it's interesting because I had the total opposite experience when you brought your kids. I was amazed, and I thought, "Wow, this guy's doing something right, that he gets his 17-year-old and his 20-year-old to show up at 7 in the morning and be excited to pitch about plumbing." Like, this guy's doing something right. Like, that was impressive to me, not off-putting at all.
Well, that just kinda shows you how awesome our business group is, because my 17-year-old boy was up before I was the last 2 times I brought him, and he's like, "I love it. I just love going and hearing all the jokes and all the fun stories and all the things about taxes," and, it's just kinda, just to tell the community out there, I have never been to a place and learned that taxes can be so fun.
I'm excited about it, but that's same thing. If we go to you, you are so excited about plumbing, and you have more jokes than I've ever even imagined to exist. But you tell them in such a way that you know that you love what you do and that you're having a good time. I mean, it's it's contagious. What is that? Encouraging. I don't know. Like it makes you excited about plumbing, just like how I get all lit up inside talking about taxes. I really do. Like it lights something inside of me, that we can go do this thing and fix this thing. And we figured this thing out. We know how to solve this thing.
Right, it's not necessarily about the technical work. It's about the people, right? Don't you think? I mean, because anybody can get on a computer and I'm sure type in numbers. Not anybody, but,
No, but it's true. It's just a da da da.
it
It's yep.
it's what separates you from, uh, uh, just being a business owner and a business owner who wants to have a family and friends, and those are customers, okay? Because I've always said that you can have your customers be family too, and you can have your customers be friends, and you can have your customers be those kind of people who are really important to you, okay? And if they need anything, my wife wrote in the bio, you know, about a lot of my customers, and I love beautiful ladies that are a little older in age, okay? Well, they're in their senior years,
It is
okay?
yours. Yeah. We all have a type. So
And I think it's awesome. I think it's one because I love to go and they have so many amazing stories to tell. So many amazing experiences in life, and I it's really hard because 'cause I'm like, "Ah, okay, I need to go and set your toilet, ma'am, but I wanna hear this story."
We have this conversation in the bathroom. Like, let's put it that
Just
way.
move it on in,
Yeah.
move it on in, you know? Don't mind the little butt crack going on. No, that's a plumber's joke, but we try not to do that. But I love it because of the experiences I get to experience with, some of my customers, and I'll never forget one older lady. She The city was kinda on her about her yard, and I thought to myself, "Okay, how can we help her this time?" And so we went back and at night, and I brought all my kids and my employees. It wasn't just a a family thing. I brought my employees and told them, "We're not getting paid for this. We're just gonna go do this." And we went and spent a wonderful afternoon and a couple subsequent afternoons and just helped her. And it didn't matter to me that she ever called me again. That didn't matter to me. It mattered to me that the fact that we had this amazing conversation and she sat on this little bucket that we turned over for her, and she was pointing out this flower here, this flower there, this, you know what I mean? And it was business. Your business and doesn't have to be all about numbers and especially for taxes, and even plumbers, it doesn't have to always be about numbers. Now those are important, but it doesn't always have to be about those things. It can be about the people in their lives, and I think that's the way it should be. And hence, that's my secret to become a giant in whatever you do. Uh, you don't have to do it in your business, you can do it in anything. You can become a giant in anything. If you love golf, which, a lot of I don't like golf, but a lot of guys do,
Somebody does. Somebody out there does, yeah.
okay, but become a giant in it, okay, and that doesn't necessarily be, Tiger Woods, okay, but it means that and take the time around you, the guys you're with to talk about their family and their life and why you're having this great experience, this afternoon of going hitting, a bucket of balls or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Learn to be that giant in your life for other people. Now here's the other statement that I have always tried myself to live for, and some people find this a little interesting, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it, is find something in your life to work for that is greater than you, okay? I'm not saying you don't place value on yourself, okay? In fact, if you take a muscle builder, okay, which I wish I was, I probably should
You might get into there, I
I
don't know.
I should go to the gym a whole lot more. You're looking great.
When you lifting the toilet, you're lifting stuff, you got those pipes, I don't know.
but you take a muscle builder, okay, and when he lifts other people and he actually works for a goal that's more than just himself, he actually gets stronger, right? So if you find something in your life that is greater than you, okay, I'm gonna ask you a question real quick. Okay. Let's say you're walking down the street and you're walking in an area that you just decided to walk a few miles further. We know just to walk a few miles, further than you normally do. And there was a car coming down the road and you saw a group of kids, children. Okay. And they come out and they were just on their phones. And they were just talking, having a good time. And one of those children stepped out in front of that car. What would you do? I'm asking you. And you knew that you just had enough time to save them.
You'd go try to save him.
Okay. Go push them out of the street. So
I mean,
would you do
yeah,
that?
you yeah. I think that would be the natural if I'm close enough,
You're close
right?
enough. You have
Not
enough
close
time
enough, yeah.
to
You'd certainly scream a warning and then yeah.
just save them, not you, not yourself, but just them. To just push them out of the way. Okay, now I thought about this. Why would you do that?
Something in your soul knows it's the right thing to do. I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know, like, that there's something greater than you.
So
You see youth, you see children, you see helpless, you see a need.
you've already placed, this person that you don't know, You have no idea who they are. You have no idea what life they live. You have no idea their background. You have no idea. 0. But you've already placed them over yourself. You've already placed you've already chosen to pick something greater than yourself, and that's another person that you don't even know. Isn't that kinda interesting? So we can take that same thing and learn to put that in other areas, any area of our life, okay? And again, that doesn't say that we don't place value on ourselves because I'm a firm believer that when we lift others, we get stronger.
Well, and I like the analogy, like, because it's a giant no, a giant is strong. A giant is amazing. A giant has confidence and skills. It's not saying, "Oh, I'm nothing and everybody else is great." It's like, no, you're standing with this strength that you have,
That's right.
but your purpose now is to be the foundation for others.
That's right.
Like,
Mhm.
that makes me think about just, I mean, like, the giants in my life, you know what I mean? Like, the people that were surrounding me when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, the people surrounding me as I've grown and got into business that have had that attitude of not tearing themselves down. No, no, they, like, they own it and admit to the wonderful things that they've accomplished and learned, but they're bringing you with them. They want to lift you.
Yeah. And if you look at the importance of that those giants are on top, and if you become a giant in anything you strive to do in your life, you will always be on top, always, because you spend your time lifting others. So you're in a business, if you take time to take one of your employees aside and say, "Hey, I saw these things. Let's talk about them. Let's help you." And then, "Oh, hey, how's your family? How's your kids?" And have a genuine interest in who they are, their interests, their likes, their passions, their family, then you will take the opportunity to lift them instead of and I'm not saying that there isn't time to bring them aside and try to correct change, make changes in their behavior or how they're doing things. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we know about plumbing, you know, slope runs downhill. It it just does, and
Not for
if you have an employee that tries to, make those turds fly, well, guess what? You have to correct that behavior.
can't control it. Yeah, it's
So so I have a funny little experience. So I've always brought my kids to work, and I've had mixed, reception from customers, you know, when I bring my daughter, especially my daughters in. My boys are like, they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're he's learning," but I bring my daughters in, they're like,
well, this 'cause you should see James's daughters. These are the most beautiful young women you've ever seen. This beautiful they're just beautiful, like, they're absolutely beautiful, and then they know how to plumb and can get up and crack jokes and pitch for plumbing, like, it is like, your mind spins a little bit. It's not what you would expect.
yeah. So I we're down in here and we're changing out this water heater, and, I have 2 stories, but, we're changing out this water heater, and this homeowner is, and he was a man, and he comes up and he says, "Do you guys need help?" I says, "Oh, no, my daughter's got it." And he looked at me, he's like, "Well, I have several levels of stairs to go up." And I'm like, "Ah, she's got it." And he's like, "There is no way that girl can take that water heater upstairs." I says, "Oh, yeah, she's got it." And sure enough, she straps it in like I taught her, takes it up and hauls that water heater up these several levels, changing levels of stairs, and he is just floored. He's like, "Wow." And I says, "Not a problem." I says, "And she's gonna be the one changing your toilet out too." And he just is like floored. He's like, "Girls just don't do these things." And I'm like, "Well, mine do." For a while. I mean, none of my girls said they wanted to be a plumber their whole life. Okay, but that's not the point, okay? The point is I got an excuse to take my daughters to lunch every day and sit with them and get that one-on-one time. Now, there was sometimes that, plumbing I mean, business is stressful, right? And
Sure you've got some stories.
yeah, well, there was one other story. I'll lead into this one, but there's another story where in a lot of plumbing situations, you need 2 people. So we're into this crawl space, and this crawl space is nasty. I mean, it's dirty crawl space. And there's cobwebs, and if you feel like you're Indiana Jones, have you ever seen in the Temple of Doom?
Oh, yeah, what's real?
Where you
There's
go through and you just
let me
it is just covered. Well, we're in this crawl space, and we feel like
I'm having, like, a panic attack just thinking about it.
we're like
Okay.
the Raiders of the Lost we're in Indiana Jones, and we're just going through it, and I go down to the end, I says, "Okay, now you have to hold this pipe wrench really tight because the other part of this pipe can't turn. So I'm gonna get down on this other end." Well, the crawl space was only about 10 or 11 inches. It was well, maybe it was probably about a foot, but you really had to squeeze. And that's why I had my daughter go in there because she could fit. She was smaller, and I'm a pretty big dude. But I says, "Whatever you do, do not let go of this pipe because we don't want to break this pipe and have to spend the rest of the day fixing pipes." So she has to hold this pipe with both hands. Of course, she was probably about 15 years old. Okay. And so she's holding this pipe above her head. She's laying on her belly and she's holding it above her head. And I'm crawl out and I go to the other end and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start undoing this. And all of a sudden I hear this, kind of shaky in her voice, like, "Dad." And I'm like, "Hold it." I'm like, "Don't let go." She's like, "Dad." I'm like, "Don't you dare let that pipe go, because I'm starting to work that pipe, trying to, and I do not want to. And finally, I'm like, "Please, Dad." help." So I stop and I run down, and of course, you got to remember, her hands are above her head, and so her face is down towards the ground. Yep, just like this, okay? And she's holding onto that wrench as high as she can hold, okay? And there was a dead rotten mouse that was about 3 inches. She couldn't see it until her light of her headlamp went down, and it was dead, and it was rotten, and it was right in front of her face.
Oh.
And and I just started laughing. I was like, "Oh, that is so gross." I mean, that is so gross. I mean, we do a lot of so I just got a board or something. I got a piece of whatever's down there, and I just scooted it over to the side, and then it's like and she held onto that pipe. She didn't move, but I mean, she needed dad to come and help move that. Most girls would be, like, out of that crawl space
Oh, yeah, no.
never coming back, right? But she did it, and she held onto that pipe, and we accomplished that and got that pipe apart. Now, we've talked about that a lot, actually,
Sure.
through the years, and we've talked about how sometimes, even though you have this hard thing that I'm sure everything in her body was wanting to just get out,
Oh, fighting it, I'm sure.
you know? But sometimes in life, we have to just push through, hold on tight, and do what we've not only been asked to do, but ourselves have committed to do because we were asked, okay? And she did, she accomplished that, and we've talked about we brought that up in hard times on her mission and hard times in her dating experiences or in college, when she was going through college and she was struggling with a class. We brought up those things and kinda how those things in life and really honestly and truly those things in life, those little stories can kinda calm you down and say, "Okay, if I can deal with a mouse being a dead, rotten mouse in front of my face for, like, 15 minutes, I can deal with a class in college that I hate,
And I held onto the wrench, and I
and
didn't let go.
I'm gonna hold on to this class, and I'm gonna hold on to the fact that I can make it through and push it through and get things done." Right? So, I don't know. It's kinda been a wonderful experience, just just having my kids be there. Every time we come to our meeting, it is like I could say, "Come on, come to our business meeting because I can take you to breakfast."
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And we do every time. All my kids, we always go to breakfast after, you know? So, I'm far from a perfect parent, far, but also another secret. I don't know how much time we have.
Oh, we got about this much time, but
About
share it.
3 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I wrote down a little list, okay, of what is good secret, and most of us know these things, okay? But I want to say it again, and showing love to your children, 'cause every one of 'em's different, right? And I would say showing love to your employees. And for heaven's sakes, that little kid that's walking down the street that you don't even know, show love, okay? And you've already shown that you could do that, right? Has You were like, no doubt in your mind, right? Okay. So showing love, okay. Um, I believe in discipline. Okay, now there there's good ways, there's a good ways, there's better ways, and there's bad ways. Okay. As a parent, you're gonna have to figure those things out. As a business owner, as a boss, you're gonna have to figure those things out because I guarantee you, Christy, you've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And I'm not saying discipline, I'm saying just corrections, okay? Because
Yep.
I've had to be corrected so many times, you know? So, and then there's that, and then I would say consistency is another thing, okay, with your children. I think consistency with your employees. I think consistency with your customers is really important too, okay? The other thing I'm going to say, and this is more to do with your family I'm gonna say this, is who you marry, okay? Now, I've always said this, and I've spoke to a lot of people. I spoke to many groups and said, "You marry who you are." And now that sounds really weird. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying that you both like the same things. Everything is equal and but you marry at the level you are, okay? There's a lot of people that say, "Well, I need a little bit more intelligent person or, one with a little bit more school, not intelligent, but well, schooling and has their career going," or wa I personally wanted to marry a woman of extreme faith, okay? Because I tend to get a little ornery in my life, eh, you know? Sometimes I snap, you know what I mean? I get a little ornery, and I needed a woman to be able to calm me down. But I will tell you this, that I had ex I have extreme faith in in my religion. I have extreme faith in my family, the potential for a family back then, okay? I wanted that same things. I wanted someone who had those same values and strengths, and so I would definitely say who you marry really matters, okay? And it's okay if they're not perfect. Because guess what? There's 2 sides of every coin, and that non-perfection, I'd say, is on both sides, okay? But find a person that is where you are spiritually, some physically is it really important, emotionally, mentally, passionate about it doesn't necessarily have to be the same things, okay? But are as passionate about things as you are, okay? And you find those people. You find that person and you wrap them up and you marry them. You know what I'm saying? And you stay the rest of your life with them, okay? And then you can use these other things like consistency and things like that, okay? And then the other things that I will say about children, this is really controversial. But being more than a parent. I mean, being more than a friend, be a parent, okay? Then I would say I'm gonna rephrase that, being more than just a friend, be a parent, because parents can be friends to their children, but it's more. You're a parent. You have to sometimes when your children
Parent,
right,
yeah.
when your
Uh-huh.
child wants to go out and do something stupid, that you have to say, "No. I'm sorry. I I don't wanna reveal this, but I've learned from experience, you are not gonna do these things, right? And so, I think that as far as the family goes, and I'll wrap this up, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanna talk about, but I kinda seem like I've just talked, but
No, I like I said, "Shh, why don't you tell me everything?" This is
So
exactly what we want.
in your life, be the giant. I will say this. I'm gonna repeat this again. Be the giant in your life. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the best. Okay? It just means be the giant that is when you walk into that room, that you can be the person that's saying, "I'm willing to lift and care about every single person in this room, whether I know them or not." Be the like you already said, be the type of person that when that person needs help or needs something in your business, family, in an argument, for heaven's sakes, in a disagreement, be the giant. In the world today, how easy is it us first to get frustrated on social media?
Every day.
Oh, like unreal. Be the giant and realize that people can have their own opinions. They can have their own beliefs. They can have their own ideas. They can have their own issues and challenges, and it's okay. You can lift them because it's just who you are. Does that make sense? Okay.
James, this is this has been so good. I've got a lot to think about, but I like this I love this idea to be the giant in a way that you're gonna lift everybody else around you, and that's the legacy, and that's the path that you're gonna leave. I'm just grateful for you joining us today on everything. James, any quick shout out you wanna do for the last couple seconds for Wright's Plumbing and Rooter? Do you wanna take a sec?
Well, you
Just
know,
tell us where you are and how people can find you.
so I my company's out of Clearfield, Utah, and we are, family-owned business, and I really stress the word family because we are a family-owned business. My son comes to work with me, and, you'll see this little boy that has long, he's, we've tried to convince him to cut his hair, but he likes his longer hair, but he's a good boy. But we're a family-owned business. We're gonna come to your house, and we're gonna treat your home like it's our home, and that's for true. Now, we're gonna go in, we're professional, we understand what we're doing, and we're not going to go out and for heaven's sakes, we're not gonna try to convince you in putting in or doing something that you don't wanna do. That's my biggest pet peeve. If you wanna do it 5 years from now, great, call me. But as far as that, yeah, we'd love to come and take care of any plumbing needs you have. So and any
Thanks, James. You guys are amazing. And thank you for joining us. It was wonderful. Thank you for telling us everything, and we will see everybody next time.
all right, thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to an episode of Shh, Tell Me Everything. This podcast is proudly hosted by PackTax and produced by Techne Innovations. We drop new episodes 4 times a month, so be sure to subscribe and never miss out. See you next time, and keep those secrets coming.